Birds are in the sky.
What makes a warrior is how they see challenges and adversity as opportunities. Warriors grow, prepare, and prevail through their crucibles. Whether you're active duty, retired, or veteran, whether your battlefield is in entrepreneurship, business, or just climbing life's ladder, you'll gain some of what makes a warrior. Insight. Lessons of grit, adaptability, and the warrior's spirit will inspire you to smash through anything that stands in the way of your mission. Buckle your seatbelt as fellow U.S. Marines, Emmy Award winner Colonel Riccoh player, and international best-selling author Zachary Green interview fellow warriors and share how they conquered their crucibles.
Yes, sir. We're going to smoke them.
Gentlemen, good to see ya. My partner in crime, Marine veteran, firefighter, and serial entrepreneur, Zach Green. I'm Riccoh player.
Riccoh, how are you doing today, sir?
We're doing phenomenal, my friend, doing phenomenal. This is the Warrior's Voice, and today we are privileged to have joining us a gentleman and a scholar and a musician, Mark Pellen. Mark, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure, and I fully understand I'm not the first musician to come on board to the show. I listened to the podcast with Mr. Barry Green. Really, really amazing. I can't wait to get a little bit of the knowledge from his book as well. We talked a little bit offline, but I'm really excited to meet him in the future as well.
Excellent.
Well, this is a special podcast for me because having grown up around musicians, the only person in my family, A, not to be a musician, and B, to go into the military. So I feel a special kinship with you, Mark. You're probably the son my dad wanted to go in the military, but we can get into that here in a second.
I'll be the bridge to both of those worlds.
Outstanding. So, Mark, please tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, right now I'm the principal director for the Parris Island Marine Band. I've been in this year will be 18 years for me, and I originally came in as a saxophonist, young high school enthusiastic saxophone player who thought he was good until he met some Marines who showed what really good means, and got a great opportunity right out of the gate. Got stationed in Marford Pac, Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, and I got to travel all over the Pacific Theater. I did 3 months on the USS Peleliu, doing humanitarian missions and performing music for people in really remote islands out in the Peleliu Islands and Guadalcanal. I mean, just incredible things. I got to go all over the Asia, Korean and Thailand and all of that stuff. I also got to go to be a part of Cobra Gold, which is a big cooperative operation with Thailand's military and the U.S. military. And I got to do that as the sergeant of the guard. So all these experiences really early in my career really, really shaped me, allowed me to see the Marine Corps outside of music, gave me a true passion for being a Marine in all phases of what that means. And, from there, my career progressed. I went back to our School of Music a couple of times for advanced training. Eventually, I became the musician placement director for the 12th Marine Corps District, which is out in California, and it covers San Diego all the way up to Alaska and all of the DOD schooling that is in the Pacific. So anything in Okinawa or Korea, any U.S. students. I was in charge of auditioning anyone who was interested in coming into the Marine band field in that part of the world. And then later on, I went off to recruiting, got selected to be an officer from Recruiting Command, went to TBS at Quantico, and then took over as the band officer for the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing Band prior to coming here at Parris Island.
So you've been all over the planet.
I've gone coast to coast, as they say. Yes, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Outstanding. So in those travels, I won't ask, what your favorite duty station was, but which one sticks out for you the most and why?
The one that sticks out the most is probably going to be the one that helps us talk about what I hope we can talk about today. But it was my second tour, and it was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which subsequently is my next tour when I leave here, Parris Island, is what I'm expecting to go to. And it was probably the worst tour of my entire career. I almost left the Marine Corps. I had some really challenging situations with my leadership throughout my time there. And I was also a little too bold and lacking maturity to kind of navigate that minefield expertly, I would say. So I would say that sticks out the most to me because I almost made the mistake that I think a lot of people make of not having the courage of my convictions to stay in the core and change things for the better. Even though I knew what right was, I was about to leave and leave a lot of good Marines who wanted to follow me because I needed to get away from the situation instead of knowing what was right, sticking around and making a difference. Luckily for me, I had a great master gunnery sergeant who came. His name was Matthew Boatwright. Multiple deployments, IA billets voluntarily, an amazing musician as well. And he put it to me how I needed to hear it. He said, look, you know what right is. You have conviction, you have courage, but you're running away right now because you don't like who you just worked for a year and a half. Instead of sticking around, making a difference so that the people that you lead in the future never have to deal with that same problem. And when he told me that, reframed everything for me. And I ended up sticking around. I re-enlisted. I went back to the School of Music and again did some advanced training so that I could earn my way into a position where I could help Marines never have to deal with the kind of situations that I was dealing with. So I would say that's the tour that kind of sticks out the most to me.
Well, Mark, thanks for sharing that. You hit on a lot of the warrior attributes in that discussion. The first one is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear or frustration. It's embracing the fear and frustration and pushing it through that uncomfort and tackling it head on. And that's a real hallmark of not just a Marine, but also a warrior.
That's right.
The other thing you did that you touched on, which is something I've mentored a lot of people, my time in the Marine Corps is very brief. It was very uneventful. It was during a time when there was a lot of attrition. There was no deployments at that time. But I spent a lot of time in corporate America, and I really had multiple positions there. And what I learned from that, it wasn't the company, it was my direct supervisor that made all the difference. And I had some great direct supervisors, but I had a couple that were horrible and went through the exact same journey you did about having that one immediate supervisor tainted for the whole thing. And again, even in the Marine Corps, I had a couple of, platoon sergeants and other people that just really, they weren't great. And it taints you. So kind of let's unpack that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of value here to discuss with our listeners. Give me some more examples on how you became a better leader as a result of that difficult experience that you went through there.
Sure. Well, first, let me just say, Zach, that I loved your book, and I loved it because you're right. A lot of the experiences that I've gone through, you went there before I did. And I got to kind of live that when I was reading about how you were stuck in darkness. There was smoke everywhere, and you got out of there luckily, right? And you made it through your training. And then you bring this problem up to your chief, and he says, hey, that's just firefighting. You're going to have to live with it. And you realized right away, this is wrong. There has to be a better way. And I think that that sort of vision, that sort of enthusiasm for knowing that something's wrong and we know a way we can make it better, or maybe we don't, but we're going to have conviction to pursue finding a way to make it better. I think that any warrior who comes across friction and says to themselves, I have the courage, the strength, the conviction to continue forward through this friction point. That's what people gravitate towards. I'm sure you've led and mentored many people who have said, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I see it in you and I want some of that. And what I think it is a lot of intangibles. The Marine Corps is, heavy on intangibles of honor, courage, and commitment. And we all know that through our recruiting phase and then becoming a Marine, understanding what those words mean more in depth. So to me, I'm looking at the scenario in my lens, and I'm saying, when I was in the pit, in the fire of friction and frustration, I really couldn't see what was to come. I just knew what I felt inside. What I felt inside was I was getting defeated, and I didn't want to be defeated because I knew I had more to contribute for others. And a sense of service to other people oftentimes gives me the conviction to put myself aside, no matter what I'm feeling, and to go forward because I know others need me to. So having a sense of something bigger than yourself. Before I got on here, actually, I looked this up because I remember hearing it and it struck me. But being afraid is a topic that comes up a lot. I think if you're a warrior, a fighter, which I have physically been a fighter. I did MMA for a while. I'm still a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And being afraid is part of the process. It shapes you and molds you. In the Bible references do not be afraid 365 times, one for every day of the year. And I find that almost ironic, but I doubt it's a coincidence for me. And I say to myself, we sometimes, I was just talking to Riccoh before we got on here about how life can beat us down, teach us some hard lessons. And sometimes our wisdom makes us a little apprehensive to move too boldly forward when we see a problem. At least that's happened to me in recent times. And I've realized I don't want to have that taken out of me. I need to keep that boldness, that courage, that conviction. And when the new monster arises, when I have to slay the next dragon, I got to take those lessons and slay the next dragon smarter, better, but never timid. So I think those are some of the lessons that I took away in hindsight. I didn't have it when I was in Camp Lejeune, that second enlistment. But after the fact, I was able to kind of digest all of that and become a better leader in the future because I could look back on it and see what I am now versus what I was then.
That's tremendous.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, Mark, looking at your shirt, can you tell us about this Tap Cancer Out? It's Grappling for Good, Jiu-Jitsu nonprofit?
Yes. So I'll try to keep the story short. I ran into this organization in 2010 after I had a spinal surgery, which almost got me taken out of the Marine Corps. I was put on a medical board for consideration to be separated. And I came across a Facebook post basically saying, here's a picture of a jiu-jitsu thing and put a funny caption. And whoever puts the funniest caption, we're going to send you a prize. So I'm laid up with staples in my back. And I put a little caption. I won't even quote it because I think it was kind of funny, but most people won't. And I just didn't even think about it. A day later, I get a message and I had won, I guess, the funniest caption. They sent me a t-shirt in the mail and I still have it till this day. It's a little too small for me today. I was a little lighter back then. But I cherished it because I was like, man, I've never won a prize ever, I don't think, except for maybe my wife. She's the only prize I've won. But I get this shirt. Fast forward, I haven't been in jiu-jitsu for about 3 years because recruiting, officer school, I mean, the schedule, you know how life can hit you sometimes. My wife gets me back into jiu-jitsu and I find out about a charity event where basically if you raise $250, the money goes directly to the charity of that particular location in San Diego. We were raising it for Alex's Lemonade Stand, which is a child cancer organization. And I said, all right, I'm going to compete, but I want to raise the $250 so I can compete for free. And it goes to a great cause. So I posted online and I'm like, here goes nothing. I'm sure I won't raise $250. I'll fill in the blank if I can't raise it, And in like a minute, I had like $500 donated. It was so fast. And I realized I was very much undervaluing the relationships I had built with people. I was maybe undervaluing what I meant to others and what that message was to them. So I raised the bar thinking I could never reach this bar to 2,500. And a day and a half later, we broke 2,500. So to make the story shorter, I eventually prayed about it and I said, God, I'm gonna test you and make this goal so audacious that I'm going to be bold, I'm going to be courageous, but I doubt I'm going to make it. I still have a lot of doubt about it. And I raised the goal to $10,000 because I was like, there's no way. And 2 days, and I didn't get to tell you this, Riccoh, but this is an amazing part of the story. 2 days before the fundraiser's closing, mind you, I only had 30 days to raise these funds. And we were already 15 days in when I changed the goal to $10,000. 2 days before, I get a phone call from a number I do not have in my phone. And it was a gentleman who I can't say his name because he's asked me to leave his name out of his donation. But I was in Hawaii at the same time as him, and I'm a dog trainer on my free time. And he was a part of this sport that I do, and he had heard about me through the dog sport. He calls me and says, Mark, I know you don't know me, but my father passed away and left an endowment for cancer-specific charities. How much do you need? And at that time, we were $3,500 short of the $10,000 goal. And I said, well, sir, I'm 3,500 short of our goal, but anything you can do, we're grateful. I'm so grateful you would even think about us, right? And he goes, okay, let me see what I can do. I'll get back to you. This is 2 days before the fundraiser closes. The day before the fundraiser closes, I get a notification in my email, and he had donated the entire 3,500 from the endowment. And now he's partnered with me through our dog training stuff to create a calendar that'll go specifically to Tap Cancer Out. Last year, they raised $8,000. This year, we're shooting for 15, I think it is. But it was an incredible test of faith and an incredible test of conviction, because I didn't believe in myself or the people that I knew that we could ever meet this goal. I'd never tried anything like that before. And again, that's just one type of dragon to slay when you're not sure you're going to make it. Do you believe enough to keep pressing forward and to try to raise the ceiling, even if it seems impossible?
Mark, I wish you could see I wish you could see the hair on my arm standing up here, having you talk how inspirational this is. I think you're really embracing the physical manifestation of what the warrior spirit is. First one is purpose. I just can feel your sense of purpose and your passion in that. The three of us have that purpose of fighting and believing in something bigger than us and the Marine Corps and the service to our country. And then the next one on there is another great warrior principle, and that is boldness. If you're going to fail big. The last thing we want to do is not give it a chance. And what you found is with that boldness is you did not know what you were capable of and the people you were capable of inspiring. So thank you, for that process and going through that, but more importantly, inspiring our listeners to understand the importance of purpose and boldness in the warrior's journey.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And honestly, if I could just say this, the gentleman that started this organization, they've raised millions of dollars over the years now for a variety of different cancer organizations. The gentleman that has started all of this, he's the president of Tap Cancer Out. His name is John Thomas. Him and his wife both basically started this very, very humbly. And now it's a national thing. I have to tell everybody, if you don't know John Thomas, he's going to pretend that he has done nothing important, that everybody else, but I have so much respect because his story is really incredible. I won't share it. I'll leave that for him one day to share with others. But I'm really, if I sound passionate, it's because he's inspired me too. It's an incredible thing what they've done.
That's great.
So Mark, you've talked about, some of the challenges moving coast to coast in the Marine Corps. You've talked about how jiu-jitsu has kind of molded you as a warrior. Your warrior voice telling you to be bold, to reach for it. And before we got started, you were discussing with me some of the terrain, some of your challenges in Miramar. Can you explain what happened in Miramar?
Yeah, so in some ways, this gets back to boldness and conviction.
Okay.
When I arrived there, I was a brand new warrant officer, and I was on fire, ready to take over the whole world. The commandant of the Marine Corps, the last day I was at TBS, came and spoke to the entire graduating class, basically, while we were in the final day of our field exercise to finish this
Mark,
simulated war.
For the listeners that don't know what TBS is, can you explain what the basic school is for them?
Yeah. So the basic school is where we send Marine officers to train. If you're going through a warrant officer program, it's a 6-month long program. And if you're going through a fully commissioned route as a lieutenant or a second lieutenant, then I believe it's a year long, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate?
It's been a while, but I think that's unchanged.
Yeah. So the basic school is basically an infantry squad leader tactics, 6-month long physical and mental test is what I'll call it for anybody who's listening. So
Okay.
having left there, I felt on fire, excited. I'm about to take over my very first unit as an officer, which is a very unique thing when you come from enlisted. Riccoh, you know that very well. And I got there and I had every resource available to me, all of the personnel I could ever wish for and dream of. The command climate was incredible. They gave me immediate endorsement of faith in me. And I just took that and we ran with it. And I had been thinking for many years, if I were ever in the position to lead a Marine band, what is the future of Marine music? How do we move forward? And my vision was things change. Although we need to continue to do the things we do well, we also have to adapt at all times to the world as it adjusts, because if we stay fixed, we will be left behind. And my thought process was Marine music always steals the show whenever we perform, and people love it. But the problem is that I can only perform for them live. And that right there sparked an idea for me 7 years before I ever became an officer, that I said, if I'm ever an officer, we have to go digital. We have to reach people where they are. Even if they can't come to me, I have to come to them. This whole idea does not fit what the Marine Corps says I'm supposed to do as a band officer or as a Marine band. I am not equipped or trained for those tasks to do visual arts and things of that nature. And so in order to accomplish this, when I got to my first duty station, I sat my staff down and I said, guys, we're going to go after something that nobody's going after. Nobody is telling us we have to do this, and we're going to do it anyway. And it's going to be really hard, and it's going to consume a lot of energy, time, manpower. And I need you to trust me because I believe very much in this vision. Immediately, they got excited. Okay, this sounds great, until the hard work kicked in. Then I got a lot of apprehension from my senior staff in particular. They supported my vision, but they also became very, very timid about what it's going to take to really make it come to life, because it was going to take a lot of time and efforts. Eventually, we sent some of our Marines to go get training through the ComStrat field, which is communication strategy. And Riccoh, that's your background. And they did about 80 hours of camera and digital production training outside of the band just to learn some basics. They came back. We took those Marines. They trained a team of 6 people. We built some kind of continuity. And from there, we started recording audio and visual so that we can reach people through a digital means. Over a year's time, we reached, I think, about 10 to 12 million people. It was truly unforeseen. Again, one of those things I never thought could happen, but just because we had the tenacity to go after a goal that nobody said we had to do, we were able to accomplish incredible things. And then COVID hit towards the end of my time there. When COVID hit in California, they said no more than 5 or 10 people within a building. So you got a 50 Marine band, 50-person band. I can't even have them coming into the building at the same time. What am I going to do? We're not doing any ceremonies. Everything is shut down. And I get a phone call from recruiting command. And they said, hey, we saw that you guys were making videos for the last 2 years with great success, and we have nothing going out right now because everything is shut down. Can you help us? I called my staff in and I said, this is why we did all of that work. We couldn't have known a pandemic was coming, but we are right now the only people positioned and ready to create material that's going to help the recruiting mission continue. And so immediately I pivoted and we became a digital only band using small groups and pumping out 3 videos, music videos essentially a week. I think we ended up doing over 20 something or 30 something videos in less than 2 months or so, which was an incredible pace. My team was absolutely worn out. But by the time I was leaving there, the team was so fluid, ready to go. They knew what to do. I was so proud. And it was challenging for me to leave there and come to Parris Island because I knew what an amazing team that was. And I had to hand it over to somebody else. But I'm super proud of the time that I had over there.
Excellent.
Well, Mark, you've got a great example of leaving things better than the way you found it. I think what's really exciting is, Riccoh was able to take an extremely difficult situation with COVID and continue to keep the Marine Corps mission of making Marines never taking a knee. You did the exact same thing. And, proud of my team. We had our largest year in the history of our company during COVID when most companies were going out of business. We were also able to pivot and find that new area that opened up and switching from making safety products to making COVID protective barriers. So that is really rich. It is not just a warrior spirit part, but that's part of the Marine Corps. And that goes back to, the 1800s and just trying to find ways to solve problems and not take excuses. The warrior is always going to find that challenge where the mere mortal is going to just use that as an excuse to fail. And for us, mission accomplishment is at our absolute core of everything we do.
Yeah. We're the men in the arena, or the people in the arena. And I think that's the question. Are you willing to step into the arena? For sure.
That was me. Don't panic. It's all good. Mark, thank you once again for joining us. Zach, you have any last questions before we wrap things up?
No, just Mark, I just want again to tell you, I can't wait to meet you in person. The We Make Marines video, I've listened to it multiple times. It is absolutely fantastic. We're going to make sure we send a link copy for some original music that Mark and his team have put together, and it's just really been taken off. As the son of a ballerina and a musician and a brother of a member of the Air Force concert band, I salute you in keeping alive that great tradition of the military music bands, and our great-great-grandfather, John Philip Sousa, I'm sure would be very proud of you.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. And I'll tell you that that particular song that you just mentioned, We Make Marines, that was the most audacious. It might not seem like it, but it was probably the most audacious thing I've ever had to do. We didn't have a facility because our building roof was caving, and our general has been on it trying to get us a new facility, but those things take time. So trying to record something, an original song, which I don't think has ever been done. I'm not aware of it if it has. Something that tells the Marine Corps story, to try to compete commercially with professional musicians anywhere, and to do it without necessarily the type of resources that other professional groups are going to have because of, just circumstance. That was an audacious goal. I'm so proud of the team that I have here, because honestly, with all the resources in the world and all the personnel and money and funding that I had at Miramar, I might be more proud of the fact that we were able to accomplish that song, We Make Marines, with what we didn't have. Just an incredible resilience all around from my team. And I'm lucky, blessed to be around such warriors. So thank you. I appreciate you all inviting me here. I appreciate it.
So, Mark, Zach and I usually dedicate the podcast to someone, and I know you have someone in mind that you would like to dedicate this podcast to.
Yeah, I do. A lot of people, they don't know what they don't know, right? So like when they think Marine musician, they don't necessarily think somebody on the front line, combat situations. And many years ago, I've met a lot of great Marines throughout my career, but many years ago, I was told a story about a Marine named Sergeant Daniel Patron. And he was a Marine musician who happened to be best friends basically with a bunch of Marines that I became very close to throughout my career. It was almost like every duty station I went to, I became really close with someone who was best friends with him. Sergeant Patron switched over from the band field. He did what we call a lateral move over to explosive ordnance division. So he basically changed his job field, for anybody who's listening and isn't aware of that. And he was on the front lines, essentially looking for improvised explosive devices and things like that. On a deployment, he essentially came in to I'm losing the proper terminology here, but he went to disable an explosive device that was meant to kill other troops. and unfortunately, the device went off and took his life. So I know for a fact his family, his mother in particular, started an organization that plants 100 flags in the Ohio area, which is where he was originally from, I believe. They plant 100 flags every year on different military members' graves. And I know that family continues to serve our country, even though he has already passed on. But I wanted to dedicate this episode to him. He's been a big inspiration to me. I've never met him, but because this brotherhood is the way it is as Marines, I have become very close brothers with his brothers. And therefore, I just feel like I've always known him, even though I never met him. So Sergeant Daniel Patron, you can find him if you search him and if you're interested in more of his story.
Thank you, sir. That was very touching.
Thank you. Again, thank you for joining us. Zach, this draws us to the conclusion of another episode. And as with all of them, we have a tradition in closing. And what is that tradition?
Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis.
The knife hand.
I love it.
Thank you, sir.
Return it.
Thank you for listening to The Warrior's Voice. If you haven't, please subscribe to this show and be the first to hear new episodes with fellow U.S. Marines Riccoh Player and Zachary Green. You can also visit www.warrior-framework.com to learn more about how you and/or your business can use the Warrior Framework to conquer personal and professional crucibles.